On this week's episode, we're talking to Greg Peterson. Greg has worked creating healthy soil and food for 50 years in Phoenix and Asheville. We talk about creating the right soil and planting the right heirloom seeds in a garden so that it's self-sustaining, even in small spaces. How local food is more nutrient dense and tastes better. How our highly processed foods are making us sick. How fragile our current food system is. And he shares many links to get started, all posted in today's show notes. And now to our very informative conversation with Greg. Hello and welcome to the podcast Eat Better Food Today. I'm your host, Ken Coonahan, and I'm excited to be sharing insights on why we believe that health and longevity begins with the food we eat. The goal of this podcast will be to inspire, educate, and enable folks to live a healthier life and do it affordably. My wife and I have been on this journey for over 11 years and continue to work on it every single day. Percent of the profits from this podcast will be put towards child hunger, with an initial focus on the poor suburb in America, East Cleveland, Ohio, which, by the way, we just set up a foundation for. As a reminder, please subscribe to this podcast. Our subscriptions are the lifeblood for any podcast. Our sponsor is Cleveland Kitchen. Think of Cleveland Kitchen as providing easy gut health with their fermented foods, which means better brain health with just 2 forkfuls a day. On this episode, we're grateful to have Greg Peterson. Greg is a writer, teacher, and lecturer on many aspects of sustainability, green living, and permaculture. Greg's passion is to present the concepts of green so that the average person can conceptualize and implement sustainability concepts into their own lives. He is a contributing writer for Phoenix Magazine and for Edible Phoenix. In this episode, we'll explore Greg's thoughts on food, health, and longevity and discuss what continues to inspire him. Welcome, Greg.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I think you know what my first question is, always about food and what the start to your day was. So please share with our audience what you had for breakfast this morning.
All right. Well, I haven't eaten yet. However, my breakfast will be waiting for me in about 30 minutes after we get finished here. It will be a sautéed broccolini, onions, and mushrooms with probably 2 over easy eggs and a slice of homemade sourdough bread.
Nice.
And the onions that are in my breakfast this morning, I grew.
Oh, wow.
So I've been growing food for over 50 years. And the house that I lived in Phoenix, Arizona from 1989 to 2022 was called the Urban Farm, an entirely edible landscape. It was 1/3 of an acre right in the middle of Phoenix, Arizona, and it afforded me the ability to go out and harvest food daily. And so, yeah, we've been here in Asheville, North Carolina now for just a little over 3 years, and our garden's getting there. Our garden's getting there to be able to eat out of it daily, and the ultimate is eating an entire meal out of my yard, and I'm working on that.
Very nice. So how do you do that in Phoenix? I mean, I've been to Phoenix. My daughter went to school down in Tucson. I mean, it's pretty dry there, to say the least. So how do you create a garden like that in that kind of environment?
It takes water.
Yes.
But before we get to the water part, we have to build soil. Mm-hmm. And one of the big things that we recommend that people do in the low desert, first step is to add 6 to 12 to 18 inches of woody mulch on a dirt backyard.
Okay.
And that interface between the woody mulch and the dirt very quickly starts breaking down into incredible healthy soil. And within 18 months to 2 years, you can have some really nice soil in your backyard, front yard, if you're using this technique. And then it holds water. The microorganisms explode in the woody mulch because it's breaking it all down, and it just builds a space where you can actually grow food.
So define a woody mulch. Like I know what mulch is, but just how would you define a woody mulch?
Woody mulch is just chipped wood.
Okay.
There's a website out there called chipdrop.com that you can log on to and create an account and sign up for free loads of woody mulch. You'll get about 20 cubic yards, which is a lot. I use it as my first step toward building healthy soil. In fact, I'm on 4 acres here in Asheville, and one of the first things I did was sign up on Chip Drop, and we've probably received 200 cubic yards of woody mulch here. And my garden bed has up to 2 feet of woody mulch that has been placed in it, so that, again, we're 3 years in and the soil's building.
Around here, there's a lot of cities that will take down trees,
Yep.
leaves, and create mulch piles, and they'll let city residents come and pick up the pieces.
That's the stuff.
Okay. So does it have to be a certain size? Because like I worked with a landscaper for one of property that I work with, and they said it has to be triple mulch,
No,
like that. So
you know what? It all breaks down eventually. We just have to be patient.
Yeah.
You know, that's the thing. We as human beings want to get it done right now, and nature doesn't do right now. Nature does in nature's time. So
yeah. And I think in America, we're more impatient than most people in most countries. So you've been with a lot of organizations over your career. And you didn't start out in the sustainable space. You started out in the IT space. I started out in the IT space. So how did you get from there to here, I guess?
Actually, I started out in this space.
Oh, okay.
And graduated in 1985 into the IT space. So I had multiple tech companies, small tech companies in Phoenix. I owned the Apple Authorized Training Center in Phoenix. I owned a software company, a laser typesetting, before laser typesetting was, back in 1984, 85, and 86. And that gave me a good groundedness in technology. And I started when I was 15. It actually goes back to when I was 9 years old. I wanted to get a paper route so that I could buy a fish aquarium so that I could look to see how I could grow fish to eat. So when I was 9, 10, and 11, I was doing that. When I was 15, I wrote a paper on how we were overfishing the oceans. This was in 1975.
Wow.
And to this day, I have no idea where that notion came from. And I used to hang out at a fish store in Phoenix, Arizona. And one day, Bill, the guy that was running the place, said, "Hey, Greg, you want to come out on Sunday and help me clean a fish pond? Here's a 15-year-old that loves fish. Heck yeah, I want to slop out a fish pond with you." So I went and I did it with him. And when we got done, he says, "Greg, I don't want to clean fish ponds anymore. How about if you take over my clients?" There was like 3 or 4 clients that he used to service. So at the age of 15, my mom was taking me around in her Pinto to the different places that I would service. And that led from 1975 to 1984, that led me to discovering aquaculture, fish farming, hydroponics, what we now call aquaponics, where you've got a pond of fish and you take that water from the fish pond and you water crops with it, and then the crops clean the water and it dribbles back into the fish pond. It's a complete system.
Yep.
And back then I was studying fish farms in Arizona, of all places, interestingly enough. And I visited a fish farm in Gila Bend. And the curious thing for me was they were cleaning the fish. And when you clean a fish, you get about 70% leftover stuff.
70%?
Yep. And 30% meat, approximately.
Okay.
And they were throwing away that 70%. They were actually, interestingly enough, giving it to the wildlife in the area, which that's a problem for natural systems. But it occurred to me in that moment, I was probably 20 or 21 years old. It occurred to me in that moment that you could do something with that stuff, that leftover 70%. So I started doing research, and on paper, I designed what we would now call a regenerative fish farm.
Hmm.
And this was in 1981. A regenerative fish farm basically uses all the waste, turns it into something like fertilizer, grows some kind of plant. Maybe it's a plant that feeds the fish, and then the fish feed goes to the fish, and then you have fish. So you get this circular system rather than this linear system. We as human beings have created nothing but linear systems. And the problem with linear systems, you want to guess?
Waste.
Waste, and they end. Linear systems all end. This chair that I'm sitting in is degenerative. The table, the cars, the pipelines, everything breaks down over time, and we have to throw more and more money at it to make it continue into the future. More and more money and energy and that kind of stuff. And so humans have only ever created, and I challenge your listeners to come up with a human created system that is regenerative. It recreates itself. And nature, on the other hand, only creates regenerative systems. Because if nature creates a degenerative system, what happens to it?
It dies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see our dilemma now. Every human system is degenerative.
My wife and I have traveled in Europe pretty much the last couple of years. They're thinking about this as different than our thinking.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
In the U.S. here, kind of change our thinking more in line with what you're talking about. So,
Right.
So let's step back a second and just talk some definitions here, because I don't
Okay.
think you were talking about Alice Waters, who I interviewed. You'd be surprised how many people that I've talked to. They say, "Oh, I interviewed Alice Waters," and I go, "Who?" It's like,
Right.
how can you not know?
Alice Waters. She is the person that really started this movement back in the 70s.
Yeah, and still today is trying to work with kids and Edible Schoolyard and still doing a lot of fantastic stuff. So yeah, it's so. But okay, so let's start. Organic has been in our vocabulary for decades. It has an official designation. Regenerative is relatively new for most. I mean, you're talking about it a few decades ago, but for most people, they're just starting to hear about it, and you're just starting to see it on packaging.
Yeah.
So I guess talk a little bit more about organic and regenerative, just from a what it is standpoint.
Okay. Organic is a designation by the USDA. USDA, all right. And it designates a particular way of growing or preparing food. There are guidelines that are loose guidelines, but they are generally going into an arena of this is healthier for you.
Okay.
Generally. It's a really slippery slope.
But at least there's some definition.
Exactly.
That's by an organization that you can put on a package and say you're organic.
There's a really great podcast out there called the Real Organic Podcast that goes deep into this subject. They have a couple of hundred episodes talking about just this.
Okay.
So that's organic.
Okay.
Regenerative is a higher level of organic. I don't think that there is a U.S. designation for regenerative.
There was an organization working on that.
And basically it means it takes it to a higher, cleaner level. And honestly, just like with sustainability, I think all these terms have been greenwashed.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm starting to see regenerative on packaging, but again, there's no set definition for what regenerative is from a consumer packaged goods standpoint.
Right.
But people are still putting it on packaging. So
well, it's organic is an owned word with structure behind it. Right. Sustainability, regenerative, they don't have that backing behind it. So anybody can put anything like that on packaging. And
absolutely. So how about permaculture? Because I've seen that in the research I've done. So that's another definition, kind of interesting.
That one I can go deep into. Okay. I've studied it for over 30 years. Permaculture I like to call the art and science of working with nature. How do we work in the flow of nature rather than against nature? We as human beings, want to swim upstream for whatever reason. I don't know why. It seems like a futile task to try and continue swimming upstream. What we do in permaculture is we look at natural systems, Mother Nature's systems, and we see how they work. And then we jump on a tube and float down the river with nature. We go in the flow of nature rather than against nature. So it's often people have misunderstanding about permaculture, like it's a way of gardening. Yep. Although, there are permaculture things you can do that are gardening. Permaculture is a methodology, a way of thinking. How do we work inside of how natural systems work?
To work with nature versus
work with nature. Yeah, exactly. So here's a perfect example. I like to call it my permaculture versus industrial chicken. What's an industrial chicken good for in our culture? What do they do with them?
Industrial chickens are what you find in grocery stores. I mean, what do you
exactly?
Yeah,
they make eggs and they make meat.
Yeah,
and that's virtually all. Well, we have a permaculture chicken. A permaculture chicken does a whole lot more in our landscape than an industrial chicken.
Okay.
In our chicken flock, we have about 10 hens. They eat bugs. They eat weeds. They till the soil for us. They leave behind manure. By the way, that's fertilizer. And in our case, we just harvest the eggs. So they give us eggs every day. Now, in the past, I've raised meat birds. I'm not a vegetarian, although I'm pretty close to being a vegetarian. One of the things that I do periodically eat is chicken. So about 15 years ago, I decided, all right, if I'm going to eat chicken, I'm going to figure out what this process of raising a chick from chick to plate is all about. So I actually went and did that. The meat birds that I raised went from chick to plate in 12 weeks. They grew from day-old chick to 4 pounds in 12 weeks. It was amazing to watch. And then I had to butcher them. And it gave me a whole new meaning of, this is what an organic chicken is. Here's how to raise them. Here's how to butcher them. And I'm much more of a vegetarian now.
Well, everybody should be eating more vegetables, regardless if you're a vegetarian or not.
Exactly. So that is an industrial chicken versus a permaculture chicken. They're also my sweetheart Heidi's pets. They're our pets. They're friends. They do work for us. So we're using them in the landscape.
So, and that's part, from my understanding, what the regenerative definition they're trying to get, USDA approved, has some of those features in it. So they're talking about having chickens, having pigs, having cows, do things for the land, fertilize the land, rotate things, and then put crops down. It's the way it used to be. It's the way nature intended, kind of to your point earlier. So
exactly.
Yeah, so they're trying. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, this is not going to take a few days or a few weeks
or a few years.
So let's talk a little bit like cover crops, crop rotation. Why is that important? Do you do that when you were in Arizona, or?
I do a little bit of cover crops in both places. I do things differently here.
Okay.
And I plant a particular kind of seed. I only use open pollinated seeds, open pollinated or heirloom seeds. They're seeds that breed pretty much true to what the parents were.
Okay.
As opposed to a hybrid. Hybrids, you take watermelon A and watermelon B and you cross-pollinate them. This actually happens in nature. And so there's nothing wrong with it. And you get watermelon C, which, by the way, is mostly seedless and really sweet and, a bowling ball size, so they're the perfect size. So hybrid seeds, while you can save and plant hybrid seeds, they're going to start degenerating back to what the parent plants were. I'm using only open pollinated or heirloom seeds. So they're producing the same plant and the same fruit that they did the year before.
Okay.
All right. So what I do, rather than using cover crops and that kind of stuff, is I use open pollinated seeds. I let things go to seed. I let them reseed themselves in my garden.
Okay.
And the volunteers come up. Volunteers are plants growing that you didn't plant. And well over 50% of the stuff that grows in our garden we didn't plant this year.
Wow.
So I did this at the urban farm in Phoenix. I lived at the urban farm for 32 years in Phoenix. And every year things would replant themselves, like spinach and kale and nasturtiums and basil and oregano and thyme. The list goes on and on. The stuff would just come back year after year after year. So that from a permaculture perspective, all there was for me to do was set the systems in place, which is what I'm doing here now in Asheville. I'm setting the systems in place, building healthy soil, planting open pollinated seeds, and letting nature do the rest. So all there is for me to do is harvest from my garden. Nice. So that's what I'm doing. And that's truly permaculture.
And can you, so just for listeners, if they wanted to do something at their home, for example, could they, do you need like 100 acres, an acre, 100 feet, 10 feet? I mean, what can people listening, if they don't have a farm or a large tract of land, do?
So my house in Phoenix, Arizona, I actually lived in the same neighborhood for 54 years. And when I bought this house in 1989, it was in my neighborhood. The lot was 80 feet wide and 160 feet deep. Okay. That's effectively a quarter acre. It had a 2,000 square foot house with, a driveway and that kind of stuff. And so I probably had 9,000 square feet of growing space. Okay. And on that property in the backyard, we had a 1,000 square foot chicken coop. We had 80 or so fruit trees. Wow. Yes, I said 80 fruit trees.
That's a lot.
I used permaculture systems to plant them densely. I had solar, 3 different kinds of solar panels on the roof. I had an outdoor kitchen and gardens growing everywhere. And remember the woody mulch conversation that we were having?
Yes.
Yeah. So I had an area in my front yard that when I moved in, it was effectively dirt. It was 15 feet wide and 40 feet long. And 20 years into me living there, I decided to start piling on woody mulch. Now, dirt is hard, compact, mostly clay in Phoenix, Arizona. And I started piling up the woody mulch. And within 6 years of putting woody mulch on that, I had 18 inches of really, really nice topsoil.
Nice.
So that's what I did at the urban farm in Phoenix. A quarter of an acre, primarily edible. The other thing is I don't plant things that you can't eat or that don't support edibles. So pollinators, flowers, that kind of stuff. It's real important in your landscape.
You ever done bees? Speaking of pollinators,
I haven't done honeybees.
Okay.
I definitely make a space for bumblebees, and there's honeybees are one kind of 1,000 different kinds of bees that are out there. So I do bee blocks. We just do everything that we can to support the pollinators because a significant amount of our food needs to be pollinated.
Correct.
So
which people don't understand either.
Yeah, exactly.
You need the bees to do the work so we can eat. Yeah. I want to make one comment and then I got a question here. So the system you're talking about with the fish, your initial foray into all this. I actually interviewed a gentleman that owns a company called Ridall here in Cleveland. and he's got the exact system that you talked about. So he's raising tilapia,
Mm-hmm.
using that to feed his plants, which he grows vegetables.
Yep.
And he also is doing composting. So he gets scraps from the city that he then uses to create new soil. So he's got the whole thing going. And to top it off, his fish, he's got such a large fish farm now that he's actually selling his tilapia to a local grocery store so that they can
Nice.
the community. So he's got a lot of very interesting things going on.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Awesome.
yeah. So the benefits. Let's talk a little bit about the benefits. So you're talking about the process and what you're doing, but why is it important? Why? So for example, what you're growing, whether it's in Phoenix or what you'll soon be growing in Asheville, it's more nutrient dense because of the soil that you created to grow it in versus industrial agriculture, which we're destroying the soil. So there's not as much nutrient density in the whatever product comes off of that farmland.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about that a little bit.
Well, first of all, we only do organic here at Goodness Grows Organics in Asheville and Urban Farm in Phoenix. We're only organic. So we're only putting good stuff on our food, as good as it can be. So there's that piece of it. And when you're nurturing and watering and fertilizing with organic, the plants do better. And there's another big problem here. It's called food miles. I'm sure you've heard of it.
I have definitely heard of it, yes.
Yeah, food miles. And do you know how many food miles food travels in the U.S.?
I know, and depending on where, I mean, it's thousands of miles.
It is. Yeah, they say 12 to 1,500 miles our food travels. And if it's bananas coming from South America, it's a lot farther.
Right.
So the average is 1,200 to 1,500 miles. The problem with that is that they have to harvest these things early.
Right.
And when you're harvesting food early, it's not nutrient dense enough. It's not completing its nutrient density cycle. You're harvesting it early. And then the moment that you harvest it, the nutrient density starts dropping.
Okay.
So the longer that it's off of, because, as an apple or a tomato ripens, I mean, if you just leave it on the counter, watch what happens. I had an apple last night that we pulled out of the refrigerator that had stayed in the refrigerator too long and it was rotting.
Yeah.
That nutrient density is not very good.
Right.
So when we're growing our own food and picking it at peak ripeness, the nutrient density is at its peak. And guess what else is?
The flavor.
The flavor, the taste.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. I can't buy stone fruit, peaches and apricots. I can't buy them because I grew them in Phoenix, Arizona. I grew a lot of them in Phoenix, Arizona. And when you pick a peach that comes off the tree, it drops in your hand. I'm getting chills as I share this. It gives a little bit, and you take a bite of it, and it splashes down the front of your shirt and makes your toes tingle. And then you try the crap that comes out of the grocery store because it got picked 2 weeks early. There's just no comparison.
Well, and this is why people and children especially don't like vegetables or fruits, because if you're buying those products and they don't taste like anything, or if you're buying a blueberry that's been flown in from Chile or South America somewhere, it's not the same thing. I mean, I did a cooking class yesterday in this neighborhood, this center we're trying to build, and I got fresh blueberries from a farm that had been picked, I don't know, 3 or 4 days ago. And I made a salad with it, but I also, before I did that, I put one blueberry in a cup for everybody and passed, everybody got a little cup with one blueberry. I said, just taste the blueberry without any, because in Cleveland right now, blueberries are fresh. They're in season, and you should be buying as many as you can right now, like your stone fruits. So anyway, so I'm in 100% agreement with that. I mean, and I've heard figures of you're lucky to get 40% of the nutrient density in a product if it's not locally grown. And locally, I mean,
Wow.
within say, I don't know, 50 miles, 25 miles, something like
Yeah.
that. So that's not good. And that also leads to this supplement industry that's out there, because they say, well, you're not getting enough nutrients from your food, so you might as well take supplements because you need something to balance that out. If you've got nutrient dense food, you don't need the supplements. So that's kind of a whole
Right.
nother conversation. So the soil that you talk a lot about. So we have a lot of climate issues going on right now. So
Mm-hmm.
you have healthy soil, like you're creating in Asheville and you create in Phoenix, the soil holds more water. You're going to
Yep.
have less droughts. You're going to have less of the climate situation that we have going on right now. So maybe just your thoughts on that.
Well, so let's talk healthy soil. There's 5
Yep.
components of healthy soil. Dirt is one of them. If
Yep.
all you have is dirt in your yard, good luck growing anything. Plants don't like to grow in dirt. Why? Because it's highly compacted.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs airspace. So dirt, airspace. It needs moisture.
Mm-hmm.
So dirt, airspace, water, organic matter. We
Very
already talked about woody mulch.
yes.
Never, by the way, never put woody mulch or uncomposted mulch in your garden beds. You need to put good soil in your garden beds.
Okay.
So dirt, airspace, water, organic matter, and everything that's alive in the soil.
Mm-hmm.
So the fix for broken dirt is to add organic matter, lots of woody mulch. What I've done here for my garden beds is I've actually made raised garden beds. It was faster than digging down 6 or 12 or 16 inches and supplementing the soil down below.
Mm-hmm.
So I put in 2-foot tall wood garden beds.
Mm-hmm.
My latest one is 3 feet long and 3 feet wide and 12 feet long.
Okay.
I put the first layer, the first 8 inches is logs.
Logs?
Logs, exactly. It's called hugelkultur.
Okay.
It's a way of building soil long term. So in the bottom of the garden bed, I put 8 inches of logs.
Okay.
It was a cherry tree that fell down on our property, and I cut it in pieces and put it in there.
Okay.
And then I put a nice composted planting mix for the rest of it.
Okay.
And then planted. In fact, go ahead.
Well, the planted mix. So where would somebody find the mix you're talking about?
So when you're new,
mm-hmm.
you're going to have to go find a place.
Okay.
There's a place here in Asheville, North Carolina called Dirt Craft.
Okay.
They're OMRI certified. That's the organic standard for soils and fertilizers.
Okay.
So the planting mixes that I'm getting are OMRI certified. They're a little more expensive. I've often said I'll spend $30 on a garden bed and $300 for the soil in it, because the soil's the important piece.
Correct.
Right? In Tucson, Arizona, there's a place called Tank's Green Stuff. That I got all my soil from them when I'm working in Phoenix. And you just have to find someplace local. The reason I like local is because the local microbes that are in the soil, remember, dirt, airspace, water, organic matter, and everything that's alive in the soil. That life in the soil is specific to your region. So if you can get regionally created soil, you're going to pay a little more for it. You're going to be better off.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a company here in Cleveland called Rust Belt Riders, and they create soil tills. So they basically, takes about 2 years for their products, but they're getting waste from restaurants, homeowners, etc., and then they're over a 2-year period turning it into. So it sounds like at least locally, or that might be a good source for people.
Yeah. So find someplace locally. That's in the short run.
Okay.
In the long run, I no longer bought compost and soil supplements when I was in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
I had a system set up of regenerative composting. There's that word. And it looks like this. The food scraps would come through our kitchen.
Okay.
Or come from the Duck and Decanter. That was a restaurant that I collected 5 buckets of food scraps a week from.
Okay.
And those food scraps would go one of two places. They would go into my worm bin for worm composting, or they would go into my chicken run for chickens to eat. Both the worms and the chickens eat the stuff and poop. And worm poop is called worm castings, and chicken poop is called fertilizer. And then I would rake all that up with the grass clipping, anything that was left over in the chicken coop, I would rake it up and put it in my big compost bin. I had a compost bin that was 4 by 4 by 4, along with any leaves from my yard, any woody mulch. That would all go in the compost bin. Make healthy compost. I would harvest that compost every 8 months to a year.
Okay.
Out of the compost bin. And I would start by opening up the compost bin and letting the chickens spread the compost because they would eat any bugs that were in there.
Okay.
That became my soil that I put in my garden beds that would grow food that would provide me with food scraps that would then start the system again. You see the circular nature of it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it is my intent here in Asheville, I don't know how long it'll take me, to not ever buy soil again. Between the chicken coops and the worm castings and a couple other things I'm doing, I'm going to make my own soil.
Okay. Nice. See, and that's something Alice talked about a little bit, is in everybody should have she calls it a victory garden, but everybody is capable of creating, no matter how small, even if you just have a patio that you can put, in some ways recreate, I guess without the chickens, but some way recreate what you're doing in your garden.
I want to actually go a little different direction here real quick. Our food system has massive problems.
Okay. I don't disagree with that.
What's that?
I do not disagree with that.
Yeah. We saw it in COVID. I mean, toilet paper.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not our food system, but it's our distribution system. It is so tentative. We saw it after the hurricane here. We went through the hurricane almost a year ago here in Asheville. Interestingly, recently, one of the major grocery store chains in the country got hacked and it shut down their shipping. So the grocery stores didn't have food. I walked into this grocery store and the food shelves were empty. And it's like, what's going on here? Well, our shipping system got hacked and they can't ship anything right now.
Wow.
Our food system is tentative at best. Now, on one hand, it's miraculous because it's feeding in the United States 330 million people-ish 3 times a day. It's called a just-in-time food delivery system, which makes sense. We want our stuff as fresh as we can get it, right?
Exactly. Yes.
However, somebody gets hacked, we have a storm, COVID happens. The single most important thing that we can be doing right now with a capital THE is figuring out where our food comes from and figuring out how to grow our own. Make friends with your local farmers. We buy from a local food co-op-ish place here, and we place an order online by Sunday, and it gets delivered to us the next week. And it's fresh, mostly local food. Support those kinds of systems because we have a tidal wave coming, and it's not going to be pretty. And one of the first things to go will very likely be food. So grow your own.
Yeah, I agree. You need to grow your own. I agree. You need to get to know your farmer. I go to a farmer's market every Saturday here in Cleveland, pretty much year round, because it's just buy what's in season. Things change. You don't have to have a blueberry every day. If it's in season, buy it, or you can buy it frozen if it's frozen fresh. But so I agree with that. And then I keep reading more about farmer fairness or unfairness, as it may be, because there's a lot of funding that used to be available to farmers. It seems to be evaporating right now. So you You need to be supporting your local farmer. We need farmers. We need people to grow our food, not just machines.
Right.
So
Yeah, exactly.
um,
One thing we haven't touched on, I want to touch on real quickly.
go ahead.
Highly processed foods. So really the bottom line is highly processed foods aren't really food in my book.
No, I agree. Yeah.
It's, they use heat to process them and add all kinds of chemicals. There's a list of over like 20,000 things that can be added to food that aren't food. And it's making us obese and unhealthy and just in general unhappy. I love telling people about an app. It's called Yuka, Yuka.
Okay.
You can download it on any smartphone, and it does the scan of the code on the product, and it gives it a grade.
Really?
Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times I scan an organic, sustainable, regenerative, supposed to be healthy product, and it gets a grade of 2 out of 100.
Wow.
And it tells you why. A lot of it has to do with the chemicals in the products. So what they say, eat on the periphery of the grocery store.
Right.
That's where the fresh food's at. Weekly, when we go shopping, 80 to 95% of our stuff is fresh food.
Yeah, I would say the same here for our household. But you got to educate people. And in some, again, this neighborhood I'm working in right now, they don't have a grocery store. They don't have a farmer's market. They just have convenience stores. So the problem is, if people want to eat healthy in that neighborhood, they don't have access to eating healthy. I am going to post that Yuka app because I think that's important. People need to understand what they're buying in a package, because there's not a lot of good things in a packaged food off a grocery, especially in the middle of a grocery store or in a convenience store. They don't have a lot of healthy foods.
Yeah.
So
I watched a video the other day from a gentleman who went to Japan, and the video was called "Why Japanese People Aren't Fat." And it boils down to smaller portions, fresh food, and not a lot of sweets. I don't drink soda pop.
I don't drink soda either.
I don't drink sweet drinks because there's so many sugar calories in it. And, it just, especially at almost 65 years old, I've got this gut that shows up. And it's like, oh man, what's that about? So I got to be real careful with the calories that I consume, because I don't want that getting any bigger.
I know you have your own podcast as well. You've worked with people. Any success stories that you can share other than your own? I mean, people that you may have worked with, organizations that have moved into this area that we're talking about, eating healthy, growing healthy, regenerative, et cetera.
All right, I'm going to share two with you. One is a personal one, and one is from podcast listener.
Okay.
So this podcast listener, his name was John. About 5 years ago, started listening to my podcast, and he got real interested in gardening. And so he put in a 10-foot by 10-foot garden. And then all of a sudden it was a 10 by 20 garden. And then it was a 20 by 50 garden. And then it was a 50 by 100 foot garden.
Wow.
And he's loving it, growing all kinds of food for his family. And he listened, and he did that because he was listening to the Urban Farm podcast.
Very nice.
And then he heard an episode one day about taking your stuff to a farmer's market. I went back to college late in life in 1999. I was in college for 6 years, and for the first 4 years, I farmed my front and backyard. And once a week on Wednesday, I would go out early, and harvest everything that I could, and I would take it to the farmer's market. And it was easy, and it was fun, and I made all kinds of friends.
Yeah.
And so on my podcast, along the way, I had a farmer's market or two person, and he listened to that podcast about taking his stuff to a farmer's market. This was probably 2 years ago in the spring. he started harvesting stuff and taking it to the farmer's market. And then in the fall of that year, he reached out to me and he said, okay, Greg, so you're responsible for this. You inspired me to plant a garden. When I retired, it went from a 10 by 10 to a 50 by 100. And then I had all this food that I didn't know what to do with. And I heard a podcast episode on going to the farmer's market. And so I've been going to the farmer's market for the past 3 or 4 weeks, and I absolutely love it. And there's lots of stories that I get like that.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So, and the one about me, I am a doer, especially around food. And I, in 2011, went to a week-long seed school.
Okay.
Seed saving, how to save seeds, how to preserve them, how to grow them, just 7 days of in-person growing seed education. And this was with Bill and Bell. I've known Bell for 25 years or so, Bell Star, and Bill and Bell were giving the seed school. And when we got done with the seed school, I said to Bill, I said, we don't have a local seed supply or a local seed bank in Phoenix, Arizona. By the way, Phoenix, Arizona is 4.7 million people. We don't have a seed bank in Phoenix. If something happens, the place to buy seeds locally is the big box stores, and it's one rack at a store.
Right.
That's a problem. So about 15 years ago, I developed a local food economy model. There's 7 parts to it. It's growing farmers, education, preparing your food, all kinds of, there's 7 parts to the local food economy. One of them is local seeds. And I realized back in 2012, 2013, that we didn't have that local seed supply. So I said to Bill, let's set up a seed bank. So I spent, I don't know, a couple $1,000s on bulk seeds, got 500, 600, 700 pounds of 80 different varieties of seeds, and I put them in a freezer in my back room. And I said, okay, Bill, we have a seed bank. And I think you already get the problem with that.
Yeah.
4.7 million people and, 600 pounds of seeds in my back room. That didn't solve the problem. So Bill and Bell and I set up an event that we do every year. It's called the Great American Seed Up. It's in Phoenix, Arizona. It's in person. So if you live in the low desert or anywhere close to Phoenix, you can fly in or drive in. It happens every November. And it is a seed education and saving bazaar. We put it in a 10,000 square foot room and let people scoop their own seeds. Now, the bonus here is these are all open pollinated seeds. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
And they're uber inexpensive. 90% of the cost of a packet of seeds is the packaging and marketing.
Yeah.
In a packet of basil seeds I bought recently, it had a 0.5 gram of seeds, of basil seeds. It was $2.89. And quite honestly, that was about a nickel's worth of seeds. The rest of the $2.89 was everything else. So what we do is we let people scoop their own seeds. So we have about 100 different varieties of open pollinated seeds in this room in popcorn buckets. And for 2 days, people can come in and scoop a tablespoon of Armenian cucumber seeds. By the way, it's $1.25 for that. And that packet of seed is 5 to 10 times what you would get in a normal packet of seeds.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. That's what we do to invigorate the local seed economy. And at the same time, we offer education. They get classes on starting seeds and saving seeds and like that. And then COVID happened. And we couldn't do our event. We used to get about 500 people a year that come in to scoop their own seeds. COVID happened. And Bell said, well, let's create a seed up in a box. So somebody that buys a seed up in a box can buy 25 different varieties of seeds in 10 packs.
Mm-hmm.
And those 10 packs come with a business card for each variety,
Mm-hmm.
and 10 packets or 10 Ziploc bags so that people can scoop their own seeds. They can literally do their own seed up. And people use them as wedding favors, as holiday gifts. And it's a way to super energize the local seed economy.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of my biggest, proudest accomplishments. And this is our 11th year doing this.
Nice.
In Phoenix. And so, yeah, so you can find out about that at seedupinabox.com.
Okay. I'll post that on the podcast as well.
Thank you.
So I have one more question, and then I'm going to ask you about the recipe. I went to an event last fall in DC focused on school lunches. I had an opportunity to talk to somebody from California that made lunches, large school system. I think the person said 55,000 lunches a day served. And
Wow.
the comment back to me was, we could never, with the way we're talking about growing food, I'll call it non-industrialized food, we could never feed all the school children in this country doing it the way we're talking about. That was her comment. So her basically answer was, I have to buy industrially grown food. So your thoughts on that comment, because I don't agree with it personally, but I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that comment.
I don't agree with it, but it's absolutely true right now. It's our industrial food system that we were talking about a little while ago.
Right.
It is the one that we're stuck with for the moment, and we can do something different about it. I'm racking my brain. Just sometime in the past month, I saw a news clip about a school system that is actually buying local. It's a shift from this corporate global food system to the local systems. And right now he's right. Well, like you said, I don't agree with it, but
yeah. So I'm working, so my wife's a teacher. So I've been talking to them for a couple of years, and they finally put out an RFP that they picked a vendor for. And now in this school, 70% of the lunches are going to be scratch made. And then I set them up with a distributor who only buys from 65 local organic farmers in Northeast Ohio.
There you go.
Products are going to come from those farmers, going to go into this kitchen, and 70%. So they're not going to, the kids used to get stuff, and everything was in plastic. And,
right.
Bag that, it just, so.
Well, that's a problem. We could do a whole episode on the problems with plastic.
I know.
In fact, I think, see my right hand?
Yes.
They call it an essential tremor. I don't know what the heck's essential about it. I'm not waving. That's my hand moving. And I believe it comes from environmental toxins, which includes plastics.
Plastics, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we could do a whole episode on plastics. But so anyways, I guess my point is you can start doing things locally. You may not be able to, this is, say 840 kids, it's not 55,000 lunches, but you can start doing things in local schools like that. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes one inspired person to say, you know what, we're going to do this differently.
And there are hundreds of food hubs in this country that people don't know about that are doing what this gentleman in Northeast Ohio is doing.
Exactly.
So you just got to look a little bit. So. All right. So final question for the episodes. And this gets back to the ultra processed foods and drive-throughs. The whole point of this is to try to get people to say, instead of spending 30 minutes going through a drive-through, spending $25 for a family of 4 and buying whatever the fast food has to serve, you can do the same thing at home in a small amount of time with a few ingredients, and it's going to taste delicious. So that's kind of the final question here.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it to you from memory, and then I will email it to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I love granola.
I love granola too.
I'm a granola eater. And the cleanest granola I can find on the market has seed oils in it, which I want to stay away from.
Mm-hmm.
So I found this recipe online that I've modified for homemade granola. And it is organic oats, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, a little bit of salt,
okay,
a little bit more cinnamon, all organic. I get all this stuff in organic.
Mm-hmm.
I make 9 cups of the oats and 1 cup of, I used coconut oil this last time. You can use also use avocado oil. Both of those are for high heat because we're going to bake it.
Mm-hmm.
And 3/4 of a cup, so really light on the sugar, 3/4 of a cup maple syrup, and a couple tablespoons of vanilla.
Okay.
And I mix all of that up. So it takes me about 7 minutes to get all that mixed up. And then I put it on 3 cookie sheets and make it about 1/2 inch thick on the cookie sheets. After it's all mixed up, I spread it on the cookie sheets. I cook it for 11 minutes. I pull the cookie sheets out of the oven and mix it up, turn it over, mix it up a little bit, put them back in the oven for another 11 minutes, and I pull it out and I let it cool, and I have organic homemade granola that took me less than an hour to make.
Nice.
Yeah.
How about honey instead of maple syrup?
You could absolutely use honey instead of maple syrup.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's very nice. Yeah, I think my wife buys at the farmer's market. She buys some organic granola, and they use like a nut butter in there, like an almond butter or something like that, in addition to what you're talking about. But it sounds like everything else is pretty similar.
Yep. Then you can add chocolate chips if you want after the fact. You can add raisins, if you want. But I just go with that.
Very nice. Well, Greg, thank you very much for being on the show today. Much appreciated. I'll go back and get everything that you commented from a link standpoint. That'll all be posted on the podcast. And,
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much for being on the show today.
You bet.
All right. Have a great rest of the day. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, my sponsor is Cleveland Kitchen, the leader in fresh fermented foods. Try Cleveland Kitchen's crunchy and delicious krauts, kimchi, and pickles, packed with probiotics to support your gut health while elevating your meals from ordinary to extraordinary. Cleveland Kitchen, where taste meets wellness. Find it in the produce or deli section of your local grocery store or visit clevelandkitchen.com for more information. And please follow the show every week where you listen to podcasts or on YouTube. Leave comments below or on my website, Eat Better Food Today.